Hello, Assalamualaikum. Okay, we shall continue now with our course Technology and Media Design, where we will talk about animation in multimedia today. Okay, the contents that we're going to cover is to do with basic concept and principles of animation, animation creation techniques, and animation categories. Yeah. So as introduction, what is animation? It's actually rapid display of static images, okay? And it's a movement of figures which has been manipulated to appear as moving images. So you can actually use static image and you repeat the same image and again to create movement that can be defined as animation as well. Previously, animation was not so popular because it requires a lot of work. You need to have an illustrator, a good illustrator, to produce drawings and illustrations, which you have to do animation later on. So it took a lot of time to produce a single animation. And normally only large companies, we've heard of this, like Walt Disney, are capable of handling or producing animations, okay? But these days, even a normal, common personal computer can produce animation, okay? It's easier these days with many available softwares. So this is one of the company, Pixar, which is very popular, has produced many interesting animation. As you are aware, Ratatouille, what else? Bugs Life and all this, as you can see on the screen. Okay, now let's discuss. Do we consider this as an animation? Okay, you all know wayang kulit. Okay, is this animation? Okay, if you look into it, it's actually part of animation. It's just the technique of animating the puppets. Not as similar as we do it through computer software, of course. Yeah. Shadow puppet, very popular sort of animation during that era. We don't see it much these days. These days, most of us are familiar with this type of animation, 3D animation. Okay, I think you have seen these movies, Avatar, Frozen. Okay, it's a bit different with wayang kulit, of course. Now, the importance of animation, we have to admit, animation helps to explain further difficult concepts, a complex and dynamic concept. Let's say whatever organ we have inside our body, especially in the medical line, they can easily use animation to explain on how the mechanism of the internal body works, which is interesting. And then animation also helps very much in the process of learning, okay, how you can use animation to map the minds of our students in helping them to understand better. So animation technique, there are drawing animation, cutout animation, model animation, or known as stop motion, digital animation, and computer animation. Most of us are familiar with digital animation or computer animation these days, yeah? Let's see drawing animation. It is also known as flipbook. You just draw a movement, a continuation of movement, let's say playing skateboard or riding bicycle on piece of paper, and after piece of paper to another, you combine them together and just flip them, right? So this is also known as drawing animation. Previously, like Walt Disney's during the early years, they use a lot of drawing animation. It's a bit troublesome to produce. You see, you have to have a good illustrator who can really draw and create movement bit by bit by drawing every movement, yeah, as you can see there. And they use this kind of equipment to capture every bit of the movement, which later they combine and move it along. Okay, we also have cutout animation, okay, like South Park. I think some of you might not be familiar with this. It's a technique where you use pictures, photos, where you combine it together and you move it, you know, bits by bits. For example, as you can see there, I mean, it's not as interesting as 2D or 3D, but it has its own style, okay? And some audience actually enjoy cutout animation. We have model animation or stop motion animation. Okay, this is a bit tricky, quite hard to produce. You can use clay, wire, and so forth. I think you've seen this cartoon, this animation here. So it's like filming puppets. Okay, you have to form 3D dimensional models. Require experts who can use plasticine, clay, or wire to form the models. Okay, and you have to like change it bits by bits by bits. It's quite similar with the drawing technique just now. It's just that this one is in a form of models. Okay, such as that. It's quite tricky, as I said. Okay, Chicken Run, a lot of other movies also use this, and it still is quite popular until now. The advantages of this clay animation, the model can be used again and again, you know. You can shoot like different angles of it with the same clay, and the film process is also quite fun. It takes less time to produce as well. But the tricky part, like I said, you know, you need to form the model in the first place, which later on you can make them move. Okay, disadvantages, it needs a lot of time to mold or to form the models, as I said. There's an example there from the filmmaker of James and the Giant Peach. You know, you're able to complete 45 seconds of stop motion animation in a week, so 10 seconds a day. It's quite tricky, as I said. And because of the puppets, and again, quite similar to drawing animation just now, where you have to move them bits by bits and capture every bits of it. Okay, digital computer animation. Let's see. This is quite familiar. Okay, created by computer. It can be either 2D or 3D. Okay. And there's a software for 3D animation and also software for 2D and 3D. It's different sort of software you have to use. Okay. 3D is more challenging. You need to digitally model and manipulate a certain movement by an animator. You might also have to use real person with certain devices, you know, to help out create the 3D animation. And 3D or 2D animation, the process, I think you've heard of kinematics. Okay, it involves study of equation, you know, software like Autodesk, like with 3D, all this integrate kinematics, equation in it. Okay, morphing. Morphing is kind of interesting as well. You know, you can morph one face to another face. It changes, you know, like from a human face, you change to tiger, for example. You know, you morph it. So the technique is called morphing. Example here, as you can see, you know, from one president to another president, change of face. You can morph them. Okay, in between. They use frame per second also, just like video. Okay, animation also uses frame per second, FPS. And normally we use between 12 to 15 frame per second. Okay, because anything less will not produce smooth movement. Okay. Normally you wouldn't know what exactly is frame per second until you use a animation software. Then only you could understand it. You can set the frame per second inside that software there. Okay, and in animation, in digital animation, there are certain technique you can use, such as keyframe, tweening, onion skinning. Yeah. So this is keyframe. Like I said, in the software, all you have to set, for example, you want to make a movement of a car, okay, from where it starts, point A to point B. From point A, let's say number 1 to point 9, okay. So those movement, to create those movement, you can simply in the software click keyframe. Okay, first keyframe and then the 9th keyframe. So number 1 and number 9 are the main keyframes, and when you click a certain function in the computer software, they will generate in between, the movement in between for you automatically, you see. There is keyframe and onion skinning as well. There's a technique of onion skinning. You can use this technique to create the movement, as in, you know, you can see the leg of the horse, right? As in there's just skin. It looks like onion skinning movement. Okay. I think last time, if you recall, they do onion skinning a lot, and sometimes on ruler, you know, all these goodies for children, they have this technique, onion skinning, on those images. Yeah, where you move the cards, for example, you can see the onion skinning movement. Okay, and then tweening, most popular technique, you know, process of forming object between frames. Let's say here frame 1 to frame 10. You know, you have a circle there and then boxes here. When you press tweening effect, you know, the circle shape here gonna change. You're gonna tween into a square, for example. Yeah, that's one of the name of the technique. Okay, this is the example as I said just now. Well, you can tween a lot of shapes from one shape to another shape. Okay, right. When it comes to animation, there's a lot of main power involves, you know. Quite similar to video production. You need script writer, you need director, producer, actors, you know, like 3D, like I've said, you need actors to do the movement and all, and connect them to certain devices. Okay. Illustrators, animators, sound engineer, technician, a lot of manpower involved there, as you can see. So it's not simply an easy production. You require a big production house for the proper animation which to be commercialized. But for your own, if you want to produce like easier, simple 2D animation, you can do it yourself, you know, for example, using software such as Flash. Yeah. Okay, thank you for listening a bit on animation.